Welcome to Participating in Your Performance Evaluation from HR Training and Development.
Thanks for being here. We're here to talk about your upcoming annual performance evaluation. It's not too early to start thinking about it. For some employees, thinking about their PE can be stressful, but it shouldn't be. This is a great time to reflect on what you've done and to provide your supervisor feedback on how you feel you're doing on the job. I'll share some tips that will help you prepare for your PE and the meeting with your supervisor.
But isn't it my supervisor's responsibility to complete my PE?
While your supervisor does have the responsibility to complete the PE and assess how you've done, you also have a very important role to play in this process. You want to make sure the PE meeting is a two-way dialogue about your performance over the past year. The best way to prepare is to do a self-evaluation.
A self-evaluation? Why should I do that?
By doing a self-evaluation, it gives you a chance to think about how things have gone during the past year. You'll get to celebrate your successes and document the challenges you've faced. It also gives you a chance to think about the job you've done from your supervisor's perspective. What would she say is important for your job and the department? What feedback has he given you during the year? What feedback do you wish he would have given you? In this self-evaluation, you also get to discuss your thoughts on the professional development and growth. You can use the self-evaluation form if you would like. Our tips will help you prepare your self-evaluation whether you use this form or not. While preparing for and completing your self-evaluation, here are some questions to think about. What were your successes from the past year? What challenges did you face? How did you respond to them? What do you think you could have done better? What would you like to accomplish or focus on in the future? When answering these questions, be specific and describe in detail what you did and how it worked out. It's really best to document and gather information for your self-evaluation all year long. But if you haven't, that's okay. You can work backwards to create the details you need. Let's look at some of the things you can include. Any notes and feedback from meetings with your supervisor. Any awards, kudos, or recognitions during the past year for your performance. This recognition will show that others recognize and appreciate your performance. Information about any special project or committees. Make a list of your activities associated with these. Be sure to provide a clear example describing what you did and the results that were achieved. Any training classes or workshops taken during the past year to learn new skills to use in your job. Be specific about how you applied what you learned. The result of this documentation will help to accurately highlight your skills and accomplishments. As you relate your actions to results, you'll be able to determine where you may need help and where your performance is on track. Sometimes, using an example of your work in story form works very well for the documentation. The STAR format can help you highlight your points in a productive way. So, what's the best way to do that? Here's an example of a STAR short story showing your actions and results from a situation that you encountered. In looking at the STAR example, let's focus on identifying the specific situation, action, and result. The situation you encountered is shown in red. The storage room, which was no one person's responsibility, had become very disorganized. As a result, team members would just order new supplies instead of checking to see what's available. Your action, shown in blue, was to organize the storage, label where to place items, and inventory what was in stock. You sent other team members an email describing how the room was now organized and listing what was available. At your suggestion, the supervisor asked team members to check the inventory before placing an order. The result, shown in green, of your action shows the number of orders decreased and the department spent $3,000 less on supplies than they had the previous year. By creating this brief story, your supervisor gets the details of the situation and what the results were. When we're thinking about the next PE, it's a good idea to look at the last one. If anything has changed in the major job responsibilities, talk to your supervisor about updating them before the PE discussion. You want to make sure you both understand what you are evaluated on before you discuss how you're evaluated. Ask yourself these questions and write down your thoughts. Where do you think you met the expectations of the job? Describe what you did to meet expectations. Where do you think you exceeded the expectations of the job? As a follow-up question, how did you exceed? You need to have the specific items to back up your statements regarding your performance throughout the year, and the more details you can provide, the better off you will be. Are there objectives you didn't meet? You should be prepared to discuss why. Being able to explain the situation and why you didn't meet these goals is different than making excuses. During the discussion with your supervisor, ask questions about what steps you could take and what resources are available to help you achieve the objectives for next year. One last thing, give a copy of your self-evaluation to your supervisor before the meeting. She may ask for it anyway. It will help her prepare for the meeting, which she will appreciate. So, what do you think so far?
Good. It all makes sense. I think I can do this. But there's got to be more to it than just this. What else should I do?
Great question. Let's focus on what you can do in the PE meeting. Here are some things to think about to be ready for the meeting. First, be prepared to give an overview of your year. Your supervisor, like a lot of supervisors, may start off the conversation asking you how you think you did, so be ready. A positive and honest overview will set the tone for the discussion. Second, bring documentation of your performance. You may have already shared this with your supervisor before the meeting. Even so, bring a copy so if you need to refer to specific details, you'll have it ready. Third, think about the questions you would like answered by the end of the meeting. These can be questions like, what did your manager think you did well last year? What does he think you could have done better? What does he see as your strengths and areas of development? What opportunities does he see for your growth? You may have other questions as well. A lot of the answers may come out during the course of the conversation, but sometimes they do not. By having your questions ready beforehand, you're more likely to bring them up before the end of the conversation. Fourth, be prepared to talk about goals and plans for next year. For a lot of us, the discussion about last year's performance flows naturally into talking about the upcoming year. And finally, be ready to discuss your supervisor's assessment. For many of us, this can be the hardest part of having the PE meeting. We hope the feedback will be positive, and if not, at least something that has come up before. Whether positive or not, feedback is most useful when it's specific. Your boss saying, "Great job," feels good, but is more powerful if you know what she thinks you did so well. If she already gives you that kind of specific feedback, then great. If not, though, you can ask questions to get more details. Listen to the feedback and remember to keep it in perspective. People around you notice things, both good and bad, which you might not see. Having their feedback will give you the opportunity to see yourself from a different perspective and to understand the impact you're making. With these simple tips, you'll be ready to have a conversation about your performance and not simply a recipient of your supervisor's assessment. Okay, sometimes we get tough feedback about how our boss thinks we're not doing as well as we think we are, or maybe not measuring up. Though it can be hard to hear, it is valuable information you can use to hopefully clarify expectations and, if necessary, turn the situation around. As we've discussed, the important thing is to get details. Bring the discussion to specific examples and situations. Ask open-ended questions which will allow your manager to share her thoughts clearly and thoroughly to get the details. In a situation where your boss thought you met expectations, but you thought you exceeded them, ask questions to clarify the expectations. You can point out what you feel you did that exceeded expectations. You may be providing information your boss didn't have before, and he may be willing to adjust the rating. It may be, though, that you and he see things differently and that the rating won't change. If that's the case, you will still be able to document your perspective in the comments. You can also shift the focus to the future and ask, what would it take to exceed expectations? This helps clarify what expectations are and what your supervisor thinks will go beyond them. We may also get feedback that is a not-so-pleasant surprise. While we hope to get feedback about potential problems at the time they occur, it doesn't always happen that way. Though it may be hard at the moment, try to stay focused on the situation that brought about the feedback and how the situation can be avoided in the future. You can also let your supervisor know your preference to get such feedback when the situation occurs. Sometimes we know the tough feedback is coming. You can begin addressing it in the self-evaluation so that the PE meeting is more about how there can be a better outcome in the future. Tough feedback can make us emotional. If you are having a hard time, you can ask to continue the discussion later when you've had time to process and reflect. Though we hope that difficult conversations won't be a part of our PE meeting, sometimes it's unavoidable. We can be ready for the possibility and use the situation as an opportunity for better outcomes. Okay, so do you think you're ready?
I think so. First, I'll review my successes and challenges from the past year and be prepared to talk about them in the actual PE meeting. I'll gather documents and stories about my work. I'll assess my own performance. I'll have a list of questions ready I want to answer from the discussion. And finally, I'll be prepared to receive and respond to feedback.
That's great! We have some additional information on our website that you might find helpful.
Thanks. With these tips, I think I'll be ready to talk about my PE.
This course was produced by HR Training and Development. You can find more information about performance evaluations at our website. Thank you for your participation today.